Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Nona from thealliancelover.com. I have a Flamboyant Gamine video for you today. We are looking at the nuances of Penelope Cruz's style. If you're a Flamboyant Gamine, or if you have some similar features, or if you're just interested in her style, I will be discussing that today. So before we get into the actual outfits, I just want to talk briefly about her body. I like to use body types as soft guidelines, but really I focus on the individual, what the dominant traits are, what someone possesses a great deal of, so that that aspect can really shine because it does rule their overall look and physique. Now, Penelope has a lot of narrowness to her. I found this picture of her in this very tight dress, full body, where she's not posing too much because poses can really skew your perception of people and their bodies. So if you happen to look in the mirror, make sure that you're using a neutral stance. You're not lifting one hip up or having one foot in front of the other or arching your back too much. Try to engage yourself in a very neutral, almost dance-like posture to really see what your body actually looks like without having to manipulate it to look more angular or more curvy. So here you can see that she is very narrow. She has a good deal of elongation to her limbs. She's rather straight. I would not call her super curvy by either her frame or by her flesh. And that is her dominant trait. It's her narrowness. She also has some broadness in her shoulders, mostly in her chest and rib cage, but that's not her dominant aspect. And she also has a little bit of angularity with the way her hips taper off. When Penelope dresses in a way to really emphasize her dominant feature first, while also accommodating the broadness in her chest and the small angles throughout her body, she looks amazing. But when she throws that proportion out of whack, when she dresses in a way that only exaggerates her broadness of her rib cage, or in a way that overwhelms the narrow angles of her frame, it can be distracting and she doesn't look as well presented. She doesn't look as cohesive, and you're not getting this super star power kind of persona that she plays so well in many of her roles. So we're going to be looking at a few of her outfits, comparing them to see why she looks so amazing when she dresses in a way to support what she naturally has. So our first slide features two rather slim dresses, but there's a lot of differences and the effect compounds on itself. So here on the left, we are seeing her body, the narrowness of her body, of her limbs, the delicacy really stands out. Okay, we're having this narrow neckline, the armholes are cut at this beautiful angle. We're really seeing her gorgeous shoulders edge. Nothing is being constrained, nothing is dragging down her shoulders. Her shoulders can stay nice and crisp. We're seeing a very slim fit throughout the chest, throughout the rib cage, and the dress is tight enough to honor the tapering of her hips. It is long and lengthens her legs all the way to just below the knee, which can make the legs look even longer than a full skirt look. And we are seeing the gorgeous delicacy of her calves, of her ankles, of her feet, and the very tapered shoes just finish off that entire line, that momentum. Now for the outfit on the right, we have this wider, rounder neckline, this wider, weaker armhole situation going on. So the shoulders are being competed with. All of this fabric, all of this shaping here, it just does not let her shoulder come through as strongly as in this dress. Now we're seeing a less slim fit throughout the torso, so we're seeing a lot of fit through the chest and rib cage where she's the broadest, and then it kind of loosens up a bit, which can further emphasize the broadness of a chest when you don't give context, when you don't taper off at the narrower points, that often makes the broadness take over. The dress is, a bit straight throughout. She is posing in a way to make it look a little bit more narrow, but this is a pretty straight cut dress. We're not seeing her hips, her knees, the curve of her calves, the curve of her ankles, plus the shoe has that wide strap, so all we're really getting from the shoe is emphasis on the width of her foot instead of the length of her foot. So all in all, this dress really isn't accommodating her narrowness, her delicate angles. It is overwhelming those features. It's not really supporting her. That's why it just doesn't look as good in here. She just looks so seductive and like herself, so natural, so effortless. This is a really amazing look on her. Next up, we have two sort of similar dresses with very different vibes due to these little details. So here on the left, we're getting again more of those narrow angles, those proportionate angles. She is not a broad, large woman. She is more narrow. She's a little bit more petite. So her details have to honor that. So this halter neckline is so proportionate to her. This very acute sweetheart neckline, the way that the bandage dress really, weaves around her rib cage. And here, if you look closer, you can see that the weaving changes direction. So from her upper thighs down, we're getting an intersectioning of the weaving, so that further emphasizes the kind of acute narrowness of her hip area, and it also creates an exaggeration of the narrowness of her knees. And when you do that, the whole upper leg area looks even longer and more exaggerated. We're getting this gorgeous acute angle at the hem, and the little train at the back just adds a little contrast to further create an even more narrow body line look. Now for the dress on the right, we have very wide straps, a very flat neckline. The bandage dress, the weaving is just horizontal all throughout. There's no angularity to it. There's nothing more minuscule or acute about it. The very straight cut hemline and the, I would say, weakly angular pleating detail. It doesn't add to her physique. It doesn't really mirror anything she already possesses in her body. That's why this dress, I think it just looks so much more effortless on her. It looks like a second skin, but with a little bit more pizzazz to it. Whether or not she has the train on, it still looks very dramatic, but very second nature to her and her frame. Whereas this dress looks a little bit more forced. You notice the dress on her instead of a full cohesive image. The next point I really want to stress is to stay proportionate. You want to make sure your details are sized to your body, because when you wear a certain size detail, that gives the eye some sort of context, and you can play with it. You can exaggerate smallness or exaggerate largeness if you do it correctly and strategically. And if you don't, it can kind of just throw the eye in some interesting directions and kind of derail it from focusing on you and your beautiful outfit. So here we have a very wide halter strap. It's just very large for her shoulders. The very long straps with a very low cut neckline really drags down her upper body, and it just creates so much distance from her chin to her chest, which is represented here by the start of the neckline. And then it creates a very short waist and a very large kind of unformed skirt region. So it's just really obscuring her features and just overwhelming the features that we are able to see. Now with the dress on the right, I think this is a gorgeous dress. I just wish the straps on top were more narrow because I do find them a bit wide, and they compete with this gorgeous skirt. The beautiful angle and flare of the skirt, which is a little bit more delicate because it gets so narrow here around the knees, and then it just flares out dramatically, cascading to the floor. That is being competed with by this very large, wide halter that obscures her shoulders and is just very large next to her face. Penelope has a very small face, so when you start wearing very large items next to a very small face, it can drag the eye downwards and you're not framing the face as much as you are kind of detracting away from the face. All right, here are two very similar dresses. I just want to stress the importance of details. I think she looks great in both of these dresses. They're very much her style and they really make her persona shine. I'm not distracted at all by these dresses, and I think her hair and makeup are absolutely perfect. Again, I am nitpicking for educational purposes. I don't go around, criticizing every little detail, but I think that once you expose yourself to all of these details, then you can exert more control over whatever you want to put on your body, whatever outfits you want to create, and you'll know how to distribute visual momentum and weight all throughout your outfit as you prefer. All right, so on the left, we have this gorgeous fold over effect on this off-shoulder neckline. First, the off-shoulder neckline, gorgeous. It creates this very strong line across her shoulders. It creates the broadest, widest point in the outfit, high up. So everything downwards from there looks extra narrow, and the little fold over effect adds a little bit of dimension. It adds a little bit of pop so that it's not flat. And this dress just skims her body so well. It's more form-fitting. We just have a gorgeous silhouette here. Simple, restrained, gorgeous. Here, I still like this outfit, but I find that it's just not as sexy on her. And I understand sometimes you don't want to look sexy, and that's totally fine. But just going off her persona, her public persona, the persona that she cultivates for her movies, the more femme fatale with a bit of an edge. This is just not as effective for that kind of flavor. So here we have a less strong shoulder line, obviously because we're not getting that strong horizontal at her broadest point. Instead, we have a beautiful wide boat neck, still gorgeous, but it's quite fitted throughout the chest and the rib cage, so that can sometimes compete with the neckline when the fabric is very tight across your chest and your rib cage. Just be careful. If you have a larger rib cage, a neckline can really help keep you from feeling a little overexposed or like you are drawing too much visual weight to that area. As for the rest of her outfit, it's elongated enough, just not as emphasized in terms of narrowness as this one. Obviously, it's not as fitted. The skirt hem is more straight. It's a little bit more open. Okay, so for some non-skin tight examples, you can still exaggerate your narrowness without having to wear an extremely tight bodycon or bandage dress all the time. So I love both of these dresses. This is not a compare and contrast of which one is better. These are just two examples of less tight dresses that still exaggerate her dominant features. So here on the left, we have this really proportional fit and print. So all of the flares, all of the shaping is proportionate to her size. It's not oversized, it's not excessive, it doesn't look so big that it becomes unstructured. It has a good shape to it. The print is also really well sized to her body. It's not too big, it's not too overwhelming. It catches the eye without overtaking the eye. So when you combine full body lively print like this with a fun but well-shaped dress. It really elongates the body, and then it further emphasizes the narrowness of whatever exposed limbs you have here. Her arms and her calves and her feet, they look extra delicate. On the right, we have this gorgeous contrast trim crochet dress, the boat neck with a contrast trim, very strong, widest point being demarcated here. The fit is nice and clean. It's not too clingy around the rib cage, so the rib cage doesn't take over the outfit. Nice length, really cute, almost like angular crochet, the diamond detailing, fun contrast pockets to keep the eye, going to different sections. It just helps emphasize different regions and sections of her body, and the jewelry and ankle straps continue that idea. Now here are some examples of just one single fabric shaped well to just define all of her different regions. You don't need to wear crazy prints, super high contrast. You don't need a color block all the time. These are just, general guidelines for flamboyant gamines or most gamines, but you don't need to do it, especially if you don't like it or if it just doesn't fit the kind of image you want to cultivate. You can wear one single fabric, but just make sure you are emphasizing your limbs, the size of your limbs, the proportion of your limbs, the contours, the twists and turns of your body. She does it very sleekly here with this belted high neck dress. Here, this really beautiful deep plunging V with the belt as well, and the fun movement all throughout the sleeves and the skirt. And here is a very well structured but not overly tailored dress with a very flirty length, and I think she just looks like herself in all of these outfits. To continue with the idea of a single color or a single print, jumpsuits are also a great idea for flamboyant gamines. Just make sure there's some contextual size detailing, so make sure there's a proportionate neckline or a collar or a proportionate print, just to give the eye some context, because the size of your details tells the eye kind of your scaling, and then you can play around with it and just make sure that you are showing your narrowness and your elongation. If that is a dominant trait of your frame, figure out what you want to emphasize. On that note of playing with details, emphasizing size, hats, big hats are really cute, especially if you have a really, narrow face, because on top of your entire look, obviously it's on top of your head, this wider hat just emphasizes the narrowness of the face and then the narrowness of the rest of the body and the angles. When you put something big in the middle of your body, it just isn't as effective because it kind of just takes over. But when it's on your head, it can just be so much more natural and flattering. You can also wear bigger prints, like here with this button up, or here with these stripes, combining them with very slim pants and perhaps even oversized boots. Because when you wear oversized boots and very slim trousers, it further creates an emphasis on the narrowness of the legs. So I think this is a really good formula for Penelope if you have a similar body, especially if you have like a bigger chest and you don't like to wear super tight tops. You can wear very slim pants, shoes that elongate your legs, and a well-shaped but sort of loose-fitting top. And lastly, here are just some photos of Penelope with other people. I recognize her kind of like persona and her star power here in this picture next to Selma. She just looks so much like herself, kind of like that dark femme fatale, edgy beauty. It's just effortlessly shining here. And then in the other outfits, I think it's a little bit more costumey here. Her hair is just super made up. This is very drapey, very, I guess, kind of conventional dress, and it's not really showing off the spunkiness of her character. And here, you know, it's a pretty dress, but I don't think it's doing anything for her underlying persona. So sometimes it's just fun to look at pictures of, you know, certain types next to other types to see if they are really communicating that kind of image that you're familiar with. And I don't know about you, but I'm very familiar with Penelope's more kind of seductive and fiery image. So that concludes the video for today. Again, I am always trying to stress that you have a unique body, and yes, you can resonate with certain image IDs, but that should not be the end of your style introspection. You really have to look at your body and your persona, what you want to exaggerate, the kind of image you want to cultivate. It's not simple. It's a very personal process. So I try to really exaggerate that in my own consult. So if you need a style consult, if you need help, you can check out my site, www.thealliancedlover.com. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.